All right, kids. So here is the word game helper. This is kind of cool. And this app actually does everything that you would probably need it to do for your AP app that you submit, because this involves lists and it involves functions, and there's a way for the user to interact with it, and there's an output. So it really does all these things. So if I choose a length, that's going to spit out all of the letters, all of the words that begin with the letter A that have a length of 3. And that comes from this data set here. So there's this word data set. It gets all the words, has their length. There's a bunch of words there, but those are the only two things that we're going to use. And then every time I change that, if I change it, it updates a list. If I change this, it updates the list. And if I happen to choose something that there are no letters, it lets me know, no options available. So let's take a gander at the code for a second and see what's going on here. So up here, there's my word list. And so the only column I'm getting is the word column, the very first column in that word list. I'm not even looking at the length because I've got a command that'll do that for me, so it really won't matter. And then there's a filtered word list. So my guess is that somewhere along this program, I'm going to take all of those words in the word list that I find that have the desired length and the desired starting letter. I'm going to put them into this filtered word list. This is actually a function that is called filter. And we'll go over that down here. It starts down here in line 15. That filter function takes two parameters. It takes a number, which is the length that you've chosen, and it takes a letter that is the starting letter. And we'll go over that in a second as well. Now there are two on event buttons. There's one for each drop-down menu. So that's the length drop-downs. When I change it, it triggers that function. And in the other on event, the letter drop-down, when I change that, it triggers this function. And notice what's happening here. I think this is kind of cool. You might not like this, but it gets the number from the drop down, and what it's doing, it's kind of anticipating when we make a change, because it's getting the text from the letter drop down. It's turning it all to lowercase, and that is a function that will come in handy when we make the changes that we have to do to the remixed app. And so here is the filter function. So the filter function works like this. So this is, oh my gosh, what's going on here? There it is. Oh, there you go. I like to try to zoom in for you. There you go. So on the, when the filter function is called, there's that little waiting image, and then this unclickable is actually a little box that's over the two drop-down menus so that you can't click on the drop-down menus while it's trying to figure out what letters to display. Here is the filtered word list. There is a filtered word list up here at the top. That was one of our variables. And we're using it down here as well. And I'm setting the text of the output. That is this area right here. So that is, let me reset that. That is this whole thing is the output area. And so what we do is we go through that word list. That's what we did up here in line number 1. We go through the word list here. And if we come up with a word list whose length is equal to the length that we had passed to this function, and that element in the word list, this substring, we're going to see this quite a bit in this unit. Substring from 0, 1, that means we actually number the letters in a string starting at 0. So for example, like if this was a string here, L would be at index 0. And so when I say a substring 0, comma 1, I'm actually getting the first element or the first letter in the word. And it goes to 0 up to 1, but not including 1. So if that substring is equal to the letter, I'm going to take it and I'm going to append it. I'm going to append that word to my filtered word list. If the filtered word list has nothing in it, that's what this is saying. In other words, if none of the words in the list met the conditions for the length or for that starting letter, we print out no options available. And we're hiding the two the unclickable elements and the waiting image element. That's okay. And then we're setting the text of the output to the filtered word list. And we are joining the elements of the list with a comma. And so if we didn't do that, it would just print out like a list of words. But that's going to print out the elements with commas in between them. Actually, it's a comma and a space. So each word will be followed by a comma, then a space, then comes the next word. So that is that. And I think what we have to do next is we are going to replace the letter pull drop down with an input. So I could type in a couple of different letters. And I think that's all I have to do. I can type in any number of letters, and so it starts with those letters. So I could type in A, B, and C, and I want all the letters to start with A, B, or C. So I'll do that next.